and welcome to the second episode of Voices on the Bridge. What an absolute privilege to do this show tonight, to have one of my sisters with me on the couch. I think today is going to be a very, very difficult conversation, but a conversation that is needed for where we at as a city, as a province, a country, and globally. This demon called gender-based violence. And so there's all of these conversations, and there is dire statistics that is so alarming. And I love saying that behind every statistic there is a person. And so the bridge is really to look at how do we mend fences, how do we bring the ordinary women that are doing extraordinary things because of a story. And so the space is really a sacred space. And I think tonight, even the room, it's really, really sacred. And I wanted to create that. And so every minute, every hour, there are children that are being violently violated, brutal. I think about the years as a community development practitioner and working in various townships. GBV doesn't know color, it doesn't know age, it doesn't know culture, but we understand that where poverty exceeds, it just hits harder. But it can happen to you, it happened to me. And so this evening I want to speak about the people behind the statistics. So welcome to Voices on the Bridge, Jocelyn Stahl. It is so lovely to have you.
Thank you so much for having me here.
And one of the things that we want from an objective of this talk show, it's really a change show where we foster and cultivate healing, restoration. And it can start with just a story. And so I met you about 2 years ago. But how weird that it was, you attended church that I attended. You're from Athlone, and so half of my life was in Athlone. 7764, is that the postal code?
That's correct, yes.
So yes, Jocelyn, tell us, who's this girl from?
Athlone, I was born in Athlone. I want to say that really I was born there, but who am I now? I am Jocelyn, a mother, a wife, a grandmother, even at this beautiful young age.
Wow, yes.
So, doesn't matter what we're talking about this evening, and I'm the daughter of the Most High.
Wonderful.
And that is my definition of who I really am. Yeah.
So you're a mother,
Yeah.
you're a wife, you're a daughter,
Yeah.
an ordinary woman.
Absolutely.
And what do you do for a living?
So currently I'm working for the church, so I've left my job. I was in HR. So 8 years ago, the Holy Spirit just spoke to me. And I resigned my job, and so now I'm working full-time in ministry, working as administrator, but also serving on the board of our church as the deaconess, and then also I'm the women's ministry leader in our church. And
Sure.
I also wear many hats in the church, but that is who I am. I think my life as it is now is God ordained, and
Sure.
I'm living in the purposes and in, when people say, what is my calling? What is my passion?
Yeah.
Why am I here? And I want to proudly and confidently say that I have found that because I know who I am.
Sure. And I think your position, being administrator of the church, you're the engine.
That's right,
You
yeah.
keep it going.
Yeah.
And then obviously to hold the women's ministry,
Yeah.
that is such a huge responsibility because you're meeting a lot of Jocelyns and
That's
meeting
right.
a lot of Tarrants.
Yes.
And so you really have to be anointed for I think it's quite a responsibility.
Yeah.
And so, wow. I think we're wanting to just open this conversation about that day.
Yeah.
If I look at my own life, it wasn't a day,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But I know people would speak about what happened that day, or what happened that days or years.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Darren, I was 12 years old when that day happened. And for some reason, I knew that day was going to happen because we had an altercation, and based on that, the lady that came said my dad actually raped this lady, and she came to tell my mother about it, and I was in the room. And
when you say a lady, was she a neighbor?
She was a neighbor.
Okay.
She was a neighbor, and she came to share what happened, and she said she asked him, why did he do that to her? What about your daughters? And he said that he would do it to his own daughters. And since that day, for me, it's almost like I'm waiting for this thing to happen, even though I don't know
when it's going
when
to happen
and what and etc. etc. However, when the day came, or when it arrived, I think it was the hardest day ever. As I remember, my dad told my mom that he needed to be at the day hospital and I needed to look after our sibling. So my mom still had a little baby and I had to take care of him. And so I knew that this is the day that was going to happen.
to you,
To me.
your own dad.
My own dad. And so what I did is I kind of took the child to my grandma, and because I was only 12 years old when this happened, I didn't have much of how am I going to work it out. I knew it was going to come, but I never had a plan in place, obviously. So when I took the turn, my dad, we used to live opposite the day hospital, and he was in the day hospital, obviously watching, and he came out of the hospital and he said, where's the child, etc., etc. And then we went back on.
So what was the rationale for you taking is it your little brother?
Yes, my little brother.
You took him to your grandmother.
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
Because I knew
that there was going to be this encounter.
Yes.
Is it a protection of your little brother? To get him out of the way?
No, it was protection for myself.
Okay.
So I left him there so that I didn't need to take care of him.
Of him at the house?
Yes.
Okay.
You see, so that I can escape this.
Okay.
And like I said to you, because I was only 12, and
yes.
if we compare the 12-year-old that time to the 12-year-old now, there's a huge difference. And so at that time, I didn't think, okay, let's do this so that I can avoid that.
Yes.
You see, and if this was 10 years ago or 20 years ago, I would say unfortunately. But tonight I don't even want to use the words unfortunately, because of what has happened to me. I am the woman today that I am because of that. I'm not speaking it right because it wasn't a good thing that has happened.
Yes.
However, I am stronger, I am different, I am matured. I would maybe never know the 12-year-old that I was supposed to be as a child, but I know who I am now. So yes.
So I want to take us back to the scene where he's at the hospital, he sees what you're up to,
Yeah.
and then take us to the moment, the encounter.
Yeah. So he comes out and he takes me home, obviously. We go first pick up my little brother and we went home.
Okay.
And then he came in and obviously he could see the fear in me. And his first words were, don't be scared. And so then obviously for me that I knew, don't be scared. Like why would a parent say that to a child?
So I'm just going to ask you one question before you go ahead. How was your relationship with him before that day? Is it typical dad, protective, daughter-dad relationship? Or
No.
could you feel there was...
No, I would say there wasn't that protector because he was also very violent.
Okay.
We would be very fearful of him.
Mm-hmm.
So I also think the reason why he took the opportunity because he kind of groomed me.
And we hear that word, grooming, so often.
Yeah.
And people don't understand the word
Yeah.
grooming.
And the reason why I'm saying grooming,
Mm-hmm.
because I would love to cook for my dad, and I would love to iron, and I would love, and I think it's maybe normal in a normal household. And that is what I long for to do for my dad. But in the same breath, that was all part of the grooming. Yeah.
And so when you say grooming for you to be a wife, grooming you to be his?
Yeah, I would say that I didn't think of it at that time because I was only 12.
Wow.
But now that I look at it many years after that, I would look at the situation and I would say, yes, he groomed me to become his.
Because it would be natural. I think of my relationship with my dad. He would ask me to make him a sandwich.
Yeah.
And that would be something very normal.
Yeah, that's right.
You would ask me to dye his hair.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't think that it would be someone grooming you.
Yeah, that's right, yes.
So you're there.
So I'm there. And then he started, he said to me, take off your jacket. And I was very scared and stubborn at the same time, and I wouldn't do it. And he said, just do it now. And then he started undressing me. Because obviously I said no, and he started undressing me. And the very first morning, so now I don't know if I mentioned that it was morning, I was supposed to go to school, but I obviously didn't because I had to look after the child. So I was dressed in my school clothes, and he undressed me, and he only would touch me. So he didn't go into the sexual. He would touch me, kiss me all over. He let me do oral sex on him. And after that morning, he actually sent me to school afterwards.
So he did that?
Yeah.
And then he sent you to school?
And he sent me to school.
And how was that for you?
And that was, I remember walking to school and I was crying because I knew that this isn't right.
Yes.
And when I came to the school, I was obviously had to just pull myself together and slap. This didn't happen because obviously before he sent me to school, he said, and you know the famous words that they say, if you tell anybody, I will kill your mother, I will kill your siblings, I will kill you if you tell anybody. And so that is also part of putting fear into us because we also know that that part won't really happen. And because you're only 12 years old and you don't understand the concepts, you don't understand what has just happened, this is the person that's supposed to protect you and look at what the situation is. So since that time, Taryn, it happened every morning.
Before school?
Before school.
So mom would have left already for work?
For work. And so maybe I can also just add in here.
Sure.
It's abnormal for a husband to be at home and take care of the kids and cook. Biblically, God didn't ordain for a man to be at home. He said that the man will be the head and the protector. And so the provider. And so the reason why I'm sharing this is because in our communities, in our nation, it's so a natural and a normal thing that mom goes to work and dad stays at home.
And I want to say, and you're saying such a vital thing because there was research done specifically on the Cape Flats with brown people where it's a norm for the mum to work and the dad to be home unemployed. I saw it then in Manenberg. When you go down Stormsrivier and you see all of these men outside standing unemployed, and mum is working.
And so that isn't what God ordained for us. And so I just want to put it out there so that people can be aware or something to think about.
Okay.
And also setting a standard for our children that this is not how it's supposed to be. That's not the order that God wants for us.
So yeah, I think it's quite hectic, because while we do have dads that probably, life is just different.
Yeah.
We have women now that are earning more than men.
Yeah.
They are more educated.
Yeah.
And so while dad is trying to find a job, it doesn't mean that all men that stay at home also would hurt their...
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
100%.
So
we don't want to put that out there, because that is absolutely not true. It's just that we get the order right in the house. And I can also add in that, yes, it's not every man. And that might have been my experience in our home. But also just to make sure that when mom and dad have that conversation, that we're both on the same page. So what will you be doing at home? Because you know what the Bible says about us. We don't have a job, and what do we do at home? We do nothing, and that is where the devil also creeping. So I'm not also declaring all these things right now. I just want to bring the reality out of life.
And I think that's powerful. We see it every day on the Cape Flats, even with young people. The devil finds work for idle hands.
Exactly.
And so I get what you say.
Yeah.
I want to go back to going to school, and it's painful because now you go and now it's happening every day, and so it's becoming a norm.
Yeah.
So you would fix yourself up and go to school. And how was school in terms of academically?
I would tell myself that this will not impact my life.
Okay.
And so I've studied hard. It was difficult because I couldn't study at night. Because I was obviously scared that while everybody else is sleeping, this might just happen again at night. So it's already happening in the morning, and sometimes in the afternoon when you come from school, you will send my siblings to the shop, and that will happen.
So, mum.
Yeah.
Often they say that mum knows.
Yeah. I would say I told my mum. So what has happened is the first morning it was just touching, and then the next morning it started with the sexual intercourse. And so from that second morning, every day for a year, I think it was for the first 6 months where that happened, where I couldn't handle it anymore, because it's not just the mental state, but also your physical state.
Yes.
So my body couldn't also handle.
Yes.
And so I had to tell my mom about it, and so I told her, and her words was, she's going to put him in jail, and that was it. There was no conversation about it. However, the next day, my dad, again the morning, mom went to work. I was at home, mom left, and then he had a knife, and he came and he choked me, and he said, yes, why did you tell your mommy? I told you, if you tell anybody about this, this is what I will do. I will kill you, and I will kill your mother, and there will be nobody that can help you. And based on that, it just went on. Sure, but what I do know is that my dad did tell me that you will never get married because you belong to me. You will never have children
because you're mine.
Because you're mine.
And so he comes out, the inmate?
The inmate, till today, I don't know if he ever came to my house.
Okay.
Because I only received the letter. So I'm not sure if it was one of the tactics or the plans that whatever they did. Yeah. When my dad came out of jail, so he now finished his 3 years.
And how old are you?
So now I am standard 9, so I'm 17 years old. 16, 17. He comes on. I go live by my aunt again because he comes on. So then I need to make room for him. And as I was living there. So now, remember, I am now grade 9, so I'm prepping for matric.
Standard 9.
Standard 9, yes.
Prepping for matric.
So he came home. He was at home. He was home for a month or two, and then he called for me. And I obviously didn't want to go home because, you know, it's been 3 years, but nothing has happened in the 3 years for me and for you. You understand what I'm saying? You've been there. For me, whatever you did, this 3 years can never bring my life back. My innocence was taken away. I could never be a child.
The 12-year-old
that
going to the mall with the friends. The normal 12-year-old having a boyfriend.
Exactly. Because there was so much fear for the world outside because what has happened in my home.
And I think segment 2 we're going to touch on more of the impact it has in one's life.
Yeah.
But I want to almost not skip and conclude. Matric is out.
Yeah, he's out, and then he called me back. I'm home, and he kind of win me back. Like, you know, he's my dad. We need to have conversations. It's normal.
Yes.
There was a lot of fear because I couldn't study at home because, you know, for us we study at night because the house is quiet. I couldn't do that because I was too scared. Then one morning before, now I also told myself that I will not allow this to happen to me again. But then one morning this happened again. And I mean, I'm 17 years old, and this man went to jail for what he has done already. He has no remorse because he comes back and he do it again.
What year was this?
So this was now when I was grade 9. That was now.
And we look at a year.
If we look at the year, oh my word. I am going to be 50 soon.
Okay.
So if I was 12, and he was in jail for 3 years, so that makes it actually 15, 16. I think I was 16. I matriculated 1993, so that makes it 1992.
Quite a pivotal time even in our history. And we see that interlinked too.
Yeah.
So he does it again. And I often hear about the saying, my body failed me.
Yeah. Because your body goes in shock. And I was saying to you now that I said to myself, I will not allow this to happen to me again. And you have no control when you're in, because your body goes in shock, it's frozen, things just happen. And so I can't explain to you, and that's why when people go through things again, I think from our side that we cannot judge a situation when you're not in it. So I would always say that I cannot give you advice because I wasn't there. So when somebody would, with leading women's ministry, I would do counseling as well.
Yes.
And so when people would come, then I would say, you know what, I can't say anything about that situation because I've never been there. So I cannot give you something that I didn't even go through, but I can tell you this because I was there, and because of that I can encourage you. Yeah.
I once heard of someone at varsity with me. She was raped 10 times by the same perpetrator, and each time it happened it was different years, different environments. Her body would fail. Yeah. I wouldn't understand that. But guess what people would ask her, and especially women. Yeah. And then the other question that they ask, I'm also jumping now, is why now? Why it's been, we see women come out 60, 70 years old. And I like the answer, some very frank, why not now?
Yeah.
How did the story turn for Jocelyn? Because it's now perpetual rape.
Yeah.
It's not that once off 12-year-old girl, it's 12.
Yeah.
He goes to jail, he comes back, again in matric.
Yeah.
What happens?
It took me a very, very long time to be young. And the story changed when I really found Jesus. If I'm understanding what you're asking, because, like I told you, everybody failed me. I would go for counseling. I mean, there was never the follow-ups, nothing.
So you're still in this house?
Yeah.
So I'm wanting to ask you, as a sister, as a mother, who saved Jocelyn?
God.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, God saved me. There was no hope outside the world. And every time when I'm in the presence of God, He would heal me. I wouldn't understand it at that time.
Yeah.
Because I would be in the church and I would find myself in front at the altar. And then there was a time when I said, I will not go to church because I do not want to be at the altar. And people look at me and they say, you keep on crying. You're crying for the same things. They don't even know the story.
They don't know the story.
But they will say that.
Sure.
And so you would also feel like, don't want to go to church because these people are so judgmental in the church. And every time when I'm in the presence of God, something changed about me. Every time when I'm there, deliverance took place. There was no deliverance now. It's just a normal service, and deliverance would
happened
there, right there. I would be in a group of people, young people my age. We would go pray together, or we would go to someone's house just to go do something, and deliverance would take place there. Now, at the time, I didn't know that God is busy, that He found me there.
Sure.
Because all I knew is this was happening to me, and I needed to do life anyway.
And so, spiritually, that is where God was busy and He was doing the healing work.
Yeah.
But physically, for people that just needs to understand the practicalities of this young woman now in this hostel, what happened? Did you leave?
Look, when it happened again, maybe I must just go a little bit back when it happened again when I was in grade 11, because it was now grade 11 now. I went, so now at this time I'm at a different school. And so I told my sir at the school, and then they called the police, and then I went home with them.
Oh, wow.
So I lived with them for about a year and a half. And
so your teacher and the wife?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, they took me in. The second time around, Dad, they didn't arrest him because when they arrived, he was gone. So obviously he knew that this one is gonna. And so in my brain, I'm also thinking, why did you let me go? You know what's gonna happen now, because I'm not gonna leave it like this. So the fact that he sent me back to school wasn't very wise again the last time. However, they did not arrest him that time. I remember me walking to the police station and say, I know where this man is.
Sure.
They never arrested him. And so I think the betrayal was the biggest thing also for me, because there was
multi-layers of betrayal.
And the no help issue, you see. But the couple that took me in, that was the saving grace, because I was moved out of the house and they didn't have any, because now you must now remember it's now later. So it's now 1992, the law is now more on my side.
There's definitely a progression.
Yes.
Sure.
So they didn't have any access to me.
Because I'm thinking now, we've got 5 minutes left, and I really don't want to, I'm okay to leave the other parts. We often say that we are stuck, we're in this crisis. But if I think of 1992, we're not where we used to be.
Yeah.
We're not where we want to be,
Yeah.
but there seems to be a little bit of hope
That's right.
in terms of the village.
Yeah.
Is this village that is there?
Yeah.
So, in this last 5 minutes, I mean, there's so much more to
Yeah.
unpack. You leave the house
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah.
Is that how you, the final physical encounter? Because
Yeah. There's so much more.
there's so
But
much.
yes, it was the last, right? But there was so much more that happened afterwards. So, when we have another session, we can continue and, yeah, I don't know how you feel, because
I want you to, I mean, we've got 5 minutes,
so I can share in the 5 minutes.
just quickly.
So what has happened? I am now going into matric, and mom and dad are seeing each other in secret. And one day my teacher said, "Jocelyn, you're writing exams today, why don't you go and see if your mom is okay?" And I said, "That would be so nice." And he dropped me off there, and when I walked in, my dad was laying on the bed with my mom. And I just ran. And then my mommy came running after me. And then we had a friend, a very good friend of my mom. And I ran straight to her house. And I was obviously frantic. And she called the teacher, and they came to fetch me. And then my mom also rocked up there, and I remember running after the car and saying, "It's not what you think."
Sure.
And there's certain pictures that you can't get out of
No,
your
you
head.
can't.
So yes, that happened. Eventually, I needed to come home because after the year and a half, I matriculated. I then went to college. When I went to college, we decided, okay, Jocelyn, you will do your first semester, and then you need to, because obviously now I'm no longer 12 and
Yes.
16, I'm now 18.
Yes.
And because I'm 18, I'm also a threat to the household that I'm living in. You understand
Yes.
what I mean?
Yes.
So I had to move, and I moved back to my aunt. So dad is obviously not living there, but they are meeting each other. And so in that season, I remember me not wanting to go out because I'm just scared that I'm going to see him. So I'm walking, you know, when you walk and you look behind your shoulder.
Yes.
That was that season for me where I was scared. And if you could do this to me all these years, you can just grab me and keep me in a place and nobody will find me. And that is the things that went through my head.
And the way you're describing it, it's like a movie. And this perpetrator is not your dad. It's some guy that's kidnapping, a serial killer.
Yeah.
Not your dad.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, eventually, I can't remember really what happened, that he just vanished and we didn't hear from him. And I then went back home, trying to mend, because now I'm studying and I'm finding my relationship with God and wanting to do better. And also
When you say wanting to do better, what is it?
to tell my mom it's okay. To tell my mom, you know, this did happen, but I'm still alive. And to tell her that it's okay, man. Like, I just wanted her also to be okay. Because of what the Holy Spirit ministered to me, the fear and the anxiety, and because I know the violence that happened in our home, how my mom was abused, physically abused by my dad.
Sure.
So it was, I kind of understood why there was times that she didn't protect me. And I wanted to tell her that. So hence the reason why I moved back home.
Did you feel sort of responsible for mom,
Yes, I did.
her safety?
Yes, I did. So it's been a while, and then my sister got married, and she's saying she wanted her dad to walk her down the aisle. And
She younger than you?
she's younger than me. I'm the eldest, yes. And I was so angry because I was thinking, you guys are not thinking about me. Nobody's thinking. It's a gay number.
You're betraying me.
Yes, and that's how I felt. I even felt that with the little baby, my brother, that I was taking care of, a betrayal. And then they went to go look for my dad. And then they found him, and he walked around the aisle. We were also at the wedding. At this time, I was married, and I have 2 children already.
Oh, wow.
And so I said that unfortunately we will not have family gatherings, and we will not allow you to be at my home. And so we put some things in place
Nice.
because now, in the interim, we would go because my mom, before my dad came back, my mom looked after the kids. So obviously I had to take my children out of that environment.
Sure.
See?
And I know, I mean, I work with so many women. Just the one last week said, I've become so paranoid with my girl child. I don't want her to be alone. I don't want her to be, because it was an uncle.
Yeah.
So there's no sleepovers at uncle and auntie's house. Was that, and so I want to speak about that impact.
Yeah.
The impact of this on your
Yeah.
life, because now you're married, you have 2 children, and at some point you needed to have a very difficult conversation with your husband.
Yes.
And so we probably, the production manager said, we have time, we must just go, because it's something that we don't want to rush.
Yeah.
So maybe we could conclude, because I'm wondering, you have this husband, this is your father, this Christmas, there's all of these rites of passage.
Yeah.
Does dad sit at the table with you? How do you feel? How's your husband feeling?
Yeah. It was very, very hard at the beginning.
Okay.
What my husband did is he went to my dad and said,
Sure.
what you did to this family was not right.
Mm.
And you need to tell your children that why you did it. You need to give them that much.
You need to tell the truth.
Yeah. And so, based on that, we had a confrontation with my dad. And it wasn't really about everybody else, it was just about me and him. And I said to him, I asked him, why did you do this?
Mm-hmm.
And when he answered me, I realized that this man don't know Jesus. Because the answer that he gave me was, I don't know.
He doesn't know.
And also, when I said to him, I forgive you,
Mm.
he asked me, what do I do with that?
Does he ask you that?
And
What do you think he meant?
He didn't understand how did you come to this point to forgive me? He didn't understand that part. And also,
So you felt that he wasn't worthy of forgiveness?
he felt that there was an expectation.
Okay.
He need to say something to that.
For that forgiveness to happen.
So for me, I expected him to say, thank you. Oh,
Wow. He couldn't.
he couldn't. He couldn't.
Where is Dad today?
He has passed on. And so that's the reason why I'm sharing like this.
Mm-hmm.
So that you can just get the picture, because he eventually gave his heart to the Lord. And the one thing that I will remember is what he said, the way we accepted him, even though he hurt us so much. And he said this could only be the love of Jesus. It can't be anything else because he cannot comprehend it in his mind that his family received him back. And that, there was a time when we sat around the table. There was a time when he passed on. He obviously struggled to die. And everybody sang and etc. And then I just came and I went to him and I said to him, listen, you just need to ask for forgiveness. Just whatever you did, with whoever, you need to ask for forgiveness so that you can go.
I'm going to ask you two more things and then you can close.
Yeah.
How does your psyche needs to almost be reframed? So I sit with my father, who's not done that to me, and you've genuinely forgiven him.
Yeah.
How is that at the dinner table now? Was there contact after the forgiveness?
Yes, it was.
And how is that? Is there memories? Is there?
Yes, there's definitely memories.
Okay.
The reality is it did happen.
Mm-hmm.
And even though we forgive, and I want to add this in, that whether it's who and you forgive,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that we must share a table.
Sure. And I think that's this thing called restoration.
Yeah.
Do we need to sit at the table again together?
No.
Or can we forgive and say, let's part ways?
That's right. And that was what we did. But because the Bible says, honor your father and your mother, we still practiced the honoring.
Wow. I must say that would be so difficult for me. I'm a Christian too, and I would ask myself then, was this man my father to begin with?
Yeah. I've asked that many times.
Yes.
And also when he died,
Yeah.
my mom was crying and I
Yeah.
went to her and I said, why are you crying? I'm happy he's gone. I said it. I said, I wanted him gone because I couldn't live the life that God has ordained for me. So even though I was saved and I forgave him, the memory of things that has happened and transpired will always be there.
With you.
And also, we didn't get to the point on how I met my husband and how it impacted my marriage and it impacted how I felt. My husband couldn't follow his dream because I couldn't let him work away from home because I was scared that even though I'm a married woman, that this man can come anytime.
And that for the first time, you're now feeling protected, but imagine the responsibility that placed on your husband.
Exactly.
There's so much facets to this conversation, and it's really something that we're going to have to revisit.
Yeah.
The other question I want to ask, and you don't have to answer it now today, is, did Dad have his own story?
Yes, he did. He definitely did. And that's one of the reasons why I could forgive.
It's powerful. I remember in 2010 when I was going through my own healing journey, one of the things a professor said to me was that our parents also just parented out of wounds, and it never makes it right.
Yeah.
It never justifies why it happens to that 9-year-old, 6-year-old. It should never have happened.
That's right.
But the ability to extend grace
That's right.
For an impossible and unforgivable act
Yeah.
that changed the discourse of your life forever.
Absolutely.
Jocelyn, we have to have, I think, 4 more coffee dates.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you. I think, there was moments I teared up and you teared up, and the ability to have these conversations is important.
Yeah.
Whether people need healing.
Yeah, that's right.
And God, I spoke to someone last week about the beautiful burden of a call.
Yeah.
And your call is healing work.
Yeah.
And so it's a beautiful burden. As much as you want to escape it, you know there's another 12-year-old
Yeah.
that's there. But we're going to India, and we're going to invite you back in a half an hour,
Okay.
45 minutes, to conclude with our other guests. So thank you very much, sister.
Thank you.